Welcome everyone to my session. My name is Dr Areej Elsayary, and I'm here today to give you a topic about the active knowledge making for STEM education. Before we start about the topic, we just need to have like a quick question and reflect back in our life and think about what is the best and worst class you ever had. So if we think about that, we will find out that the best class we had in our life is the class that we were active learners, the class that it has a discussion running around, questions are asked from students or from learners, and teachers just facilitating the learning to students. While the worst class you ever had, you will find that you have been sitting in your place, receiving a lecture and having a lot of wording from the teachers, and most of them you forgot it. So here is the difference between active and passive learning. So we can say that students can acquire around 5% of the lecture, and they can acquire knowledge if they have read some information. They can acquire 20% if they have audio or visual aids. They can be 30% if they start to do some research or demonstration. If we go all the way down, we will find that as per the pyramid of active and passive learning, that the students can acquire around 90% after practice doing discussion, demonstration, audio and visual, till they reach to the level of teaching others, presenting their work, or even reflecting on their learning. So here is the point. How can we change students' learning to be active learners rather than being passive learners? So if we look here at these two scenarios, we will find that the first scenario, the teacher is speaking to the students. She's saying to him, I'll tell you everything you need to know. You need to memorize the information. You will be required to reproduce the information. And the student is obeying. I'll listen and copy your notes. I'll memorize the information. I'll reproduce the information. If we look at the second scenario, the teacher here is different. She's saying, I need to know what you know. I need to understand how you learn. I'll help you develop your own understanding. While the student is responding, I'll explain what I know. I'll show you how I learn. I'll enter into a dialogue with you to improve my understanding. So here the student has an active role in the second scenario, while in the first scenario, the student is very passive learner. So these are the difference between the passive scenario of learning and the active learning scenario. So here the first one, the learning in which a student sits in the classroom and listens to teacher lecture about any subject is considered to be a passive one. While the active learning, where students are actively involved through questions, discussions, interaction, debating, presentation, or even reflection. So from here we can jump on and try to define what is the STEM learning or what is the active STEM learning. Learning is basically defined as taking new information, acquiring skills, and having positive attitudes. So we have three aspects: information, skills, and attitudes. So for students, STEM is the integration between skills and content. We can refer to these like the daisy flower or the rose flower. The daisy flower, you will find that all the petals are open and the students is standing in the middle, try to connect between all the subjects. Sometimes they succeed to do so, and other times they fail to do so. While in the rose flower, all the subjects are intertwined together to form a real-life problem, where the students are responsible and forced to solve this problem. Of course, with the guidance of the teacher, with the facilitation of teaching, but they are the one who is responsible about their learning. So from here, we can say that STEM is integration between the content and the skills. And this is something very important that we should consider. It's not only to put subjects together, we need to think, how are they going to use these subjects together? So here is another structure of the memory. So here we can explain how the students acquire the information. Any information that the students hear or demonstrate or discuss, it comes to their short-term memory. If they pay attention to it, it will go to the working memory. If they didn't pay attention to it, it will go to be forgotten. So it will go to the memory loss. In the working memory, if this attention has been acquired or has been developed by rehearsing or practicing more. So here it will be transferred to some codes that will go to the long-term memory. And it can be retrieved again back whenever they want any information to get it back. If there is no rehearsals of this information, so the information in the working memory is going to be lost in the memory loss, it's going to be forgotten. Also, the long-term memory, if the information have not been used for a long time, it will cause decay and it will be forgotten as well in the memory loss. So here is a proof that active learning enhances students' information, enhances students' learning, and how they acquire in their brains. For teachers, it's very important that they have to have three main knowledge. They have to have the pedagogical knowledge. How can we teach inside the classroom? They have to have the content knowledge. What are their subject specialists and the subject information? And how they have the technology knowledge as well. How they are going to utilize all of these in the environment, on a digital learning environment. Because nowadays we have been in the digital age. No more teaching and learning with a paper and pen. We need to put the technology and we need to give it a big focus. So here the teachers need to have the STEM competencies, as the learning of students consists of information, skills, and attitudes. So the teachers as well need to have the knowledge, skills, and attributes. This will enable them to have the problem-solving skills, the communication skills, technology and engineering skills, system resources, and management skills. So if they don't have this, definitely they will not be able to transfer it to students. So here is the competencies. The competencies is consisted of the knowledge, which is the science, technology, engineering, math, could be the principle and methods of learning outcomes, the pedagogy knowledge, how they teach, how they assess students' learning. It could be the technological knowledge, how they use the technology as a tool, and how they manage all of these principles together. And they have to have as well the skills. They have to have the critical thinking, the problem solving and creativity in order to use it in their subjects. They have to have the communication, collaboration, emotional intelligence to know how to teach effectively. They need to have the information literacy skills to know how, when, and where to use the technology. And they need to have the decision making to know how can they put all of these things together and to manage them well. Regarding the attributes, they have to have the analysis, the evaluation, and the reflection. They have to be reflective practitioner. They have to have the conflict management, the coaching and development in their teaching and learning. They know how to interact with technology and develop of goals, monitoring, and the processes of all of these process of teaching and learning. So hereby all of that, we can say that they can acquire the STEM competences, that they can transfer it easily to students later on. So in order to ensure students' active learning in STEM education, we need to be active teacher in STEM education. So if we look at it carefully and we got lost about how can we do all of that? How can we put things together? How can we teach? The clue of that is the reflection. The reflection is considered to be assessment as teaching. While we are teaching, we have to have multiple checking points where we need to check students' understanding and we need to give them a feedback about their learning, ask them to reflect, and then move on to the next part. So by here, we will find that it is not only assessment, it is not only teaching, it is integrated together, teaching with the assessment. So if we look at the reflective theory model that we have here, we have two types of reflection. We have the reflection in action and we have the reflection on action. Reflection in action is happening while the students are learning inside the classroom, doing their projects, solving the real life problems, or even trying to analyze a real life scenarios. While reflection on action is after learning is happened. They have to think about all the learning journey that they have passed through and what are the gaps that was occurred, how can they improve their work, how can they think about the future, and how can they add to their work to be done and implemented in the future. So here we have some samples This is reflection in action, where students are using the engineering design process. And sometimes we call it the design thinking process. Sometimes we use as well the inquiry process or the 5 E's. They are all processes that is useful and can be used within STEM education. And there is here the reflection on action, where there are some questions that the students need to reflect. Sometimes we can help them by giving them beginning of sentences and they can complete it. So it's just a guidance about how they get used to reflect. So by now, we will ensure that we will have a generation of active learners who have a lifelong learning skills and have the 21st century skills and competencies. Thank you so much for listening today. Inshallah, we'll see you soon in another topic.